Steel-toe boots by the job site gate, clipboard heavy with the weight of fate. Just sign it, don't slow us down. Don't make waves, don't shut it down. But I've seen the blood on the ground, I've read the names on the reports when they were passed around. A hard hat crack tells the truth, no lie. Somebody rushed, somebody waved it by. They call us overhead, call us a cost, but they never count what a life would have cost. Safety professionals, get off your knees. We weren't hired to beg, we were hired to lead. No more rubber stamps, no silent pleas. This job was built on accountability. Stand up straight, say what you see. Safety professionals, get off your knees.
Hi, this is Jim from Safety Wars. Before we start the program, I want to make sure everyone understands that we often talk about OSHA and EPA citations, along with some other regulatory actions from other agencies, legal cases, and criminal activity. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Proposed fines are exactly that, and they are often litigated, reduced, or vacated. We use available public records, news accounts, and press releases. We cannot warranty or guarantee the details of any of the stories we share, since we are not directly involved with these stories, at least not most of the time. Enjoy the show.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Hello, we're back again. Computer issues, so we will be uploading last night's program tonight and tonight's program tonight. How's everybody doing out there? Slow news day in the safety field, but we're talking about big things with what did happen here. We're going to be reviewing the U.S. Chemical Safety Board website tonight. Secretary Sonderling advanced some U.S. priorities at the G7 meeting in Geneva recently. Over there in Geneva, Switzerland. I tell you what, these folks get around. They get around. They're all over the place, you know. And let me do a little plug. We'll start out with a little plug here for Safety FM. Because there are...
The other is this nuclear dust. The Iranians are smart, and if you look at what they did with their nuclear program, they will use it to extract as much concessions from the Americans as they can, and that means sanctions relief, and that means trying to get their oil flowing properly.
And if the US or Israel or the United Nations wants to recover Iran's stockpile, it will need a mechanism for doing that, which is another big unresolved question as the conflict continues. With FSN's...
All right, so... Oh, here's what we do. So, sucks being the engineer and everything else here. Okay, alright. So, let's see. Share a screen here. Sorry, folks. This is live radio. So we're going to do a share screen on over to the Safety FM website here. And these are our shows here. The Rated R Safety Show with Jay Allen, Pre-Accident Investigations, a HOP broadcast with no name, Safety Consultant with Sheldon Primus, he's been here, as well as Jay Allen, that's me, and the Safety FM with Jay Allen, the complete series, 777 episodes out there. So oftentimes I'll have a question with Jay and he'll refer me over to a podcast here. And the big one is, they're all big, I mean they're all great, is Pre-Accident Investigation by Todd Conklin. So you're going to say, well, who are these guys? Can we meet them? Well, you can meet some of us here with, let's click on the events. And we have the Reality Shift, an observational symposium on July 13, 2026. with Nick Weatherly talking about BBS, and Todd Conklin on human organizational performance, and Jay Allen on his recent book, The Signal Trilogy. So, what's it about? You can check it out on Safety FM website here. So, Todd Conklin, we know Todd. Todd is a leading voice in human organizational performance and organizational safety. Spent 30 years at Los Alamos National Lab, serving as a senior advisor for organizational and safety culture. There. So, with that, and we have Nicholas Weatherly, who is an internationally recognized leader in the application of science behavior to safety, leadership, and performance systems. He is the CEO of Delivered Coaching International, where he and his team apply behavioral strategies to drive cultural change and improve organizational and safety performance. With that, he's been in the for a long time there, and of course, our leader, Jay Allen. Jay is an advisor, strategist, and founder of Safety FM. His work focuses on how organizations interpret risk. If you had to, so you could check us out. It's on July 13, 2026. There is a price to it, $197 right now, but it's well worth it. And so I'm going to suggest that everybody head on over there and see what the hell's going on with that. So if you were going to describe Jim, those are great bios there. What would be mine? Now, probably that I'm the guy who reports the news, uses a little bit of satire and humor throughout this whole thing, and tries to get you to think, tries to get you to realize you're being manipulated. I'm your big brother out there. I'm there to give you backbone, to give you encouragement, to help you out, to inspire. And every once in a while, show you, hey, you can do it because I can do it. I've done it. It doesn't matter what it is. So, the thing is, it's just like the opening song here. Safety professionals, get off your knees. The biggest problem that we have is not, or the worker has even, is the way we conduct ourselves, number one. And number two is a complete, I call it servile safety, where people do not have backbone. They don't have the backbone to do the job. We're not here to confront, we're here to work with people, but you have to have backbone. And the reality is, nobody wants to deal with someone without backbone. Very, very few people. They're few and far between, especially if you're going to be dealing in certain industries like the construction, shipyard industry, and disaster industry, environmental and disaster industry, where, we had this one guy. He would be hiding, lurking and hiding behind things. And then he'd do the seagull method. He'd come in and say, he'd be hiding behind a process pipe or a concrete column, and he'd be looking, what's he doing? We got to audit him. And then he'd go run in and say, you got to put on your hard hat, and then run away. Or, where's your permit? Oh, there's, okay, and he'd run away, afraid of going out there and having a conversation, checking things out. Good guy, but very, very servile, very, very intimidated by everybody. And what we're here is to build up your confidence a little bit, give you some of that phraseology. And you look at some of the songs here that we have. Now, yeah, they're AI generated, overwhelming majority of them, maybe 99%. And what do they use the phrases in there? Here we have safety professionals, get off your knees. You got to get off your knees. You're not there to live on your knees. Stand on your feet. Have some backbone. And that's my motivational message for tonight. Okay, I tell you what, let's just head on over to Department of Labor News. And, I tell you what, when it's 10 minutes in, it's the monologue. We're going to head on out and put on some commercials, maybe some music. Hang on.
SafetyFM.com. The Safety War Show. It does stream live on the radio and on the streamer-emers that we have. So if you have not taken a listen to Jim Bolzel and what the hell he's doing every evening with Safety Wars, I would strongly encourage you to take a view or take a listen, whichever option is available for you, and take a listen to what the hell he has going on. It will take some deep dives and some information that you might be interested in.
Okay, we're going to head on over to FSN World News.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to hit Iran hard again after complaining that it was taking too long to negotiate peace.
We're going to hit them again hard today, in case you miss it, in case you don't turn on your television set. We were really close to a deal, but they keep tapping us along. They keep playing us for suckers because you know what? They dealt with some very stupid presidents. I have to say that. I'm embarrassed to say it. Some very stupid people were sitting here.
The president's threats come after the latest exchange of fire with the U.S. striking Iran in response to the downing of an army helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz on Monday. Tehran launched retaliatory attacks on U.S. bases across the Gulf. Mr. Trump has been alternating between promising peace and threatening to return to full-scale war, but so far neither has happened. Inflation in the United States has risen to a 3-year high, presenting a new challenge to the Federal Reserve under its new chair, Kevin Warsh. Mitch McCann has more from New York.
On an annual basis, inflation rose to 4.2% in May from a year earlier, representing a 0.4 percentage point increase from 3.8% in April. The increase was largely due to rising energy prices as the conflict in Iran continues. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, energy prices accounted for 60% of the overall monthly increase. The price of gasoline in the US is now $1 more per gallon than it was a year ago, and airline fares have increased by 26.7%. Core inflation, the figure that excludes volatile food and energy prices, was much lower, rising 2.9% on an annual basis and just 0.2% month over month. The figures are unlikely to please officials less than 5 months out from the midterm elections, with affordability set to be a key issue at the ballot box. Mitch McCann, New York.
The European Union has informed Meta that it must allow AI chatbots from competing tech firms to operate on WhatsApp. The parent company of the messaging service and Facebook says the move amounts to regulatory overreach. William Denslow reports from Brussels.
The EU's Commissioner for a Clean, Just and Competitive Transition says the move is about giving European citizens choice in their AI assistants, without the decision being made for them. The EU says that a range of chatbots must remain available to users on WhatsApp during the course of its investigation. The move comes after Meta banned third-party general-purpose AI assistants from the messaging app for its business platform. Meta says the EU's move will allow AI companies to gain access to WhatsApp for free, adding that it will appeal the decision. William Denslow, Brussels.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking in more detail today at Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium. It is in many ways at the heart of stalled efforts to forge a ceasefire extension with the US and even a longer-term peace agreement. President Trump refers to it as nuclear dust because, he says, Iran's nuclear capacity was obliterated in Operation Midnight Hammer last year. But David Patrikarakos, special correspondent for the Daily Mail and the author of Nuclear Iran, The Birth of an Atomic State, says it is far from clear that, in fact, Iran's stockpile really was reduced to dust.
To be fair to them, they went out and they degraded the nuclear facilities. They were never specifically trying to degrade the dust, as Trump calls it. Look, we don't know is the answer, and this is the big unknown, and this is why it's so worrying. In terms of what it means, that dust is leverage. This is a country that has been sanctioned to the hilt, a country that is internationally isolated, has very few points of leverage. One of them we know now is the Straits of Hormuz. The other is this nuclear dust. The Iranians are smart, and if you look at what they did with their nuclear program, they will use it to extract as much concessions from the Americans as they can, and that means sanctions relief, and that means trying to get their oil flowing properly.
And if the US or Israel or the United Nations wants to recover Iran's stockpile, it will need a mechanism for doing that, which is another big unresolved question as the conflict continues. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
Our main news again. US President Donald Trump has threatened to hit Iran hard again after complaining that it was taking too long to negotiate a peace deal. Inflation in the US has risen to a 3-year high, and the EU has informed Meta that it must allow AI chatbots from competing tech firms to operate on WhatsApp. That's the latest feature story news. Kate Fisher reporting.
Thank you, Kate Fisher. All right. So what do we got going on here? All right. So Acting Secretary of Labor Sonderling advances U.S. priorities at the G7 meeting in Geneva. I am looking for a copy of that speech if it's available. How about someone send me over a link to it? I've been looking for it for like 20 minutes today, and then I cut bait on this. Acting U.S. Secretary of Labor Keith Sonderling advanced President Donald Trump's efforts to strengthen the American workforce, support the resurgence of U.S. manufacturing, and expand economic activity for American workers and businesses, while participating in the 2026 G7 Labor and Employment Ministers meeting in Geneva, Switzerland. During the meeting, Acting Secretary Sonderling promoted policies that support American workers and job creators through economic growth, workforce development, and stronger domestic industry. He championed the department's registered apprenticeship program as a proven model for addressing workforce shortages and supporting reindustrialization efforts. Acting Secretary Sonderling encouraged international partners to combat foreign labor abuse and unfair trade practices that disadvantage American workers and businesses, emphasizing the need for fair global competition. The G7 Labor and Employment Ministers meeting convenes the world's leading industrialized nations to discuss labor market trends, workforce challenges, and policies that promote economic opportunity and growth. As we celebrate 250 years of American independence, the U.S. remains committed to working with our trade partners to raise labor standards and combat unfair practices that hurt American workers and businesses. Through global workforce policies that expand opportunity, productivity, and fair competition, the U.S. will bolster domestic industry and ensure American workers and businesses can compete and win. While in Geneva, Acting Secretary Sonderling convened a roundtable on workforce development and reindustrialization held bilateral meetings with counterparts from various countries, governments to discuss shared workforce priorities, labor market challenges, and opportunities for cooperation that support American workers and job creators. So I think this is a pretty good thing here, right? As a mentor of mine used to say, with a very high-level mentor from previous administration, when the U.S. goes into these international meetings, they meaning the negotiators, the diplomats, and everything, they always negotiate from a position of weakness. And as we know, President Trump doesn't like that so much. So I think Secretary Sonderling and others are saying, look, we're going to negotiate from a position of strength here. The way it was described to me all the time was this. Imagine this number line where you're at 0 and the other guy is at 10. And you meet somewhere in the middle, let's say a number 5, and that's a compromise where everybody gets a little something that they like and everyone doesn't get everything that they like, sort of thing. So you try to meet in the middle. And what happens is if you start from 0 to 10, you meet in the middle, it's 5. The United States government, they start at like a 4 and the other side at 10, and they get to 8. And that's considered in the middle. And it's refreshing to see someone out there pushing a pro-American thing and American exceptionalism. Whether you agree with it or not, it's upset the apple cart, so to speak, with that. And again, that's one of our themes here is upsetting that apple cart a little bit to get people to think. That's where the idea of ancient safety professionals came from. Here we have they have a link to Putting America First, the Bureau of International Labor Affairs, that's part of the DOL. And here we have business self-assessment tools for forced and child labor-free global supply chains, labor standards, and the U.S. Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, right? And what the idea is, level the playing field with the U.S. companies so we can compete fairly there. And where is, this gives you all of the things is for North America requires the party, Mexico, Canada, and the United States to adopt and maintain in law and practice core labor rights as enunciated by the ILO and enforce labor laws, requires the parties to prohibit the import of goods made by forced labor, to address violence against workers exercising labor rights, and to address sex-based discrimination in the workplace. It includes an annex on worker representation and collective bargaining that requires Mexico to establish and maintain independent and impartial bodies, register union elections, and resolve disputes relating to collective bargaining agreements and the recognition of unions, and protects workers' rights to engage in real collective bargaining, and requires companies in Mexico to abide by the same basic labor principles that companies in the U.S. Do. Right? Because, it's hard to say, and they give some success stories. Now, it's hard to say at the time when all this is being negotiated. There's anecdotal evidence that, and I guess it was true, that Mexico not treating its workers well, and all of these things under NAFTA going down and giving businesses and everything running on over to Mexico and maybe even up to Canada for lower wages, cheaper things, and everything else. That's what the Ross Perot always called the sucking sound of NAFTA. And I think that was made to combat it. Here we have ILAB publishes 3 reports on foreign labor abuses that serve as valuable resources for government action and corporate due diligence. So the ILAB stands up to unfair trade practices abroad. So American workers have the edge to win in the global economy. We publish 3 reports on foreign labor abuses that serve as valuable resources for government action and corporate due diligence. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be having this, right? The Department of Labor is exposing foreign labor abuses to address unfair competition for American workers and companies. The list of goods produced by child labor or forced labor, and the list of products produced by forced or indentured child labor, by shining a light on the egregious labor practices. So, see what we have here. This is from 2024. That was under the Biden administration. Here, child labor in that area. Okay, select the region. Let's select the region. Americas. Okay, then we got to click on this. Meaningful efforts strengthen laws and policy to protect children from sexual exploitation and child trafficking. I know we did and it's probably worth it to do it again, especially with summer break coming up for my kids, and now all of the a lot of the other areas still in summer break was child labor laws and child trafficking. I tell you what, we have a family that we know whose daughter got wrapped up, 14-year-old daughter got wrapped up, and for lack of a better word, a informal cult that had to do with child labor and child sexual exploitation. And it was basically, it got reported to the parents by a parent coming up and knocking on the door. Hello, my son just got this on Snapchat, and is this your daughter? And it was a picture of her daughter doing very inappropriate things with an adult. And, so I know a little bit about this just from that vicariously through the family. I mean, it's horrific. And I know during the Biden administration, well, you could go back in all those press releases. There was a lot of child labor law violations that they would report on with that, where the federal government was looking into it. And I pointed out, and I believe somebody had mentioned it in the administration at that time. Hey, if they're violating child labor laws, they're probably violating a lot of other OSHA regulations out there with that. So, I mean, list of products produced by forced indentured child labor. Forced or indentured. So, let's see. Read more. The list is required by Executive Order 13126. Who is the page not found? Gotta love it. Wow. So we have bamboo. Right, so we won't go through all 508 of them, I think it is. Children as young as 10 in Burma being forced to deal with bamboo. Let's click on in the middle. Ghana. Ghana made moderate advancement efforts to eliminate the worst forms of child labor. The government ratified the International Labor Organization Convention 188, which defines 16 years as a minimum age for work on fishing vessels. Tilapia, specifically with tilapia from Ghana. I know I'm not supposed to name drop, but I worked at a restaurant that actually had hosted the Ghana royal family. So that was a pretty interesting crowd there. Got to have dinner with them. Interesting group of people. We'll leave it at that. Very respectful, I'll say that too. All right. How many minutes do we have into this? Let me check. All right, we're at 28 minutes. Let's see here. Let us go. I tell you what, we're going to go and share with you an edition of... Where is it? I had to reorganize things here. Here's an episode of Ancient Safety Professionals, The Cult of Zero. We'll be hitting another episode on Friday, we think. So you'll be hearing it next week, episode 3.
Among the most mysterious discoveries of the ancient safety tribes were large banners suspended above work sites. These banners often displayed a sacred number. Scholars believe these signs served both ceremonial and spiritual purposes. The ancient people appeared convinced that displaying the number publicly would ward off injuries, accidents, and regulatory inspections. Evidence suggests entire organizations became devoted to protecting the sacred number. When incidents occurred, rituals often followed, meetings were conducted, root causes were reassigned, terminology was adjusted, and in some cases, injuries vanished entirely from official records. Researchers now believe the zero incident banner did not actually prevent injuries. Instead, it may have prevented reporting. Archaeologists discovered that many safety leaders of the period measured success not by risk reduction, but by numerical purity. The lower the number, the greater the praise from upper management. Some organizations reportedly achieved zero by discouraging workers from reporting injuries at all. Others transformed recordability itself into a sacred legal debate.
Don't go to the clinic. You'll ruin the numbers.
The ancient tribes appeared obsessed with maintaining appearances. Entire ceremonies were dedicated to celebrating injury-free milestones. Workers received pizza, executives received bonuses. Meanwhile, near misses, fatigue, understaffing, deferred maintenance, and production pressure quietly accumulated beneath the surface. Some historians now compare these banners to protective talismans, symbols intended to reassure leadership that danger had been defeated. But archaeological evidence suggests the hazards remained fully operational. The workers still fell, the machines still failed, the systems still drifted. Only the reporting changed. Modern scholars remain divided. Were the ancient safety professionals genuinely attempting to improve safety? Or had parts of the profession become trapped in what historians now call safety theater?
So what do you think? What do you think? Let me know. A lot of stuff going on there. All right, well, let's mosey on over to U.S. EPA press releases here. So search all news releases here. All right, let's see. EPA begins removing hazardous waste from the Woodhill Plating Works facility in Cleveland, Ohio. Today, the U.S. EPA announced that it has begun removing hazardous waste from the former Woodhill Plating Works facility on the nearly 1-acre site in Cleveland, Ohio. EPA estimates the cleanup to take 2 to 3 months. 20,000 gallons of hazardous waste is stored in various containers on site, including chromium, lead, arsenic, various acids, and cyanide salts. Yeah, that's usually what's used in plating. Not all containers are labeled. Oh, you gotta love that. And some containers are missing tops or lids. Improperly storing these materials could result in the release of hazardous substances into the environment. Crews will secure the site, identify the substances, and decontaminate equipment and building components. Workers will consolidate, package, and remove hazardous waste for safe disposal. I don't like that word disposal. I like proposal better, but not disposal. But anyway, you can think about it. Air monitoring will be conducted during the cleanup to ensure cleanup activities do not impact air quality off-site. Nearby residents may notice increased vehicle activity in the area, and workers in personal protective equipment. Woodhill Plating Works Company began operating in the late 1940s electroplating copper and brass substrates with nickel and chrome. In February and March of 2023, the Ohio EPA inspected the facility and observed violations of state hazardous waste regulations. So this is actually works pretty quick. I mean, this is pretty quick. 2024, now it's 2026. They're cleaning it up. EPA Administrator Zeldin concludes 4-day New York tour. I wonder if he went home, because that's where he's from. With that, yeah, well, he deserves it, right? Let him go home. He's always on the road. Advancing clean water and energy priorities. U.S. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin wrapped up a 4-day swing across New York State on Monday, June 8th, spotlighting Trump administration priorities on Long Island, that's where he's from, in the Hudson Valley, that's where I'm from, and in the southern tier. Over the course of the trip, Zeldin toured clean water research and shellfish restoration efforts. I mean, that was on Long Island. I mean, they've done a lot of work out there over the last 30 years to try to clean up Long Island sand and everything else. I mean, Billy Joel had out a song in the 90s, as I recall, on the Downeaster Electra, on the Downeaster Electra, something like that, talking about the plight of the Long Island fishing industry there. So that's in early 90s. Downeaster Alexa, that's what it was. Administrator Zeldin started his morning on Friday, June 5th, on Long Island at Stony Brook University's New York State Center for Clean Water Technology. Originally launched in 2015 to address nitrogen in waterways, research at this center has recently expanded into PFAS and other contaminants of local priority. The administrator met program leaders to learn more about work taking place to combat PFAS contamination, along with new technologies being developed to better equip water systems to address this critical human health issue. At the conclusion of his conversation with leadership, Administrator Zeldin toured the campus facilities and met with scientists there. Oh, I tell you what, they look thrilled to see him. Again, I'd love to know what the context is there with that. Then they also toured the town of Oyster Bay, shellfish hatchery that aids in breeding, maturing, and seeding efforts. They went to Oyster Bay Town Supervisor. That's our equivalent in New York. That's our equivalent of the mayor, as the town supervisor. And EPA Region 2 staff to discuss efforts to preserve the Long Island Sound during, and then they had a boat tour of the Sound, you know. So, Zeldin highlighting accomplishments in Trump EPA and Long Island Sound, which include in 2025 the maximum area of hypoxia in Long Island Sound was 18.34 square miles, a historic low since monitoring began. Awarded 66 projects directly benefiting communities and municipalities. Measured 473 acres of new eelgrass meadows for a total of 2,014 across Long Island Sound. Reached 629 decision makers through training, workshops, and direct engagement. Educated 328,602 people. Right? And then Hudson Valley. They met Congressman Mike Lawler, my congressman, in the Rockland Green Solid Waste Management Authority. That's in my neighborhood there. So, talking about reducing food waste, the EPA's Feed It Onward initiative, which highlights organizations taking action. And then they headed on over to Binghamton, New York, which is about a 4-hour ride there. So that was on Sunday. They were in my neighborhood. And now let's remember, the president recently visited right down the street from me in Suffolk, New York, at the Rockland Community College. And don't think that this here with on Sunday was another a de facto campaign type thing there. I mean, nothing wrong with it. I mean, administrators have to go out there and do their thing. On Monday, June 8th, they went to Binghamton, which is about 4 hours west here, proposed by Williams Companies. They were talking about the Constitution Pipeline, a reverse the state's fan of safe extraction of natural gas. Proposed by Williams Companies, I've worked on several of their projects, by the way. The Constitution Pipeline is a proposed 125-mile natural gas pipeline that will transfer energy from Pennsylvania through New York and into New England. Now, Binghamton. So when Hess Oil was Amerada Hess, a Woodbridge, New Jersey-based company at the time. They still do exploration. By the way, Eugene Hess owned the house across the street from where I grew up back in the 1920s. That's where Amerada Hess pretty much started there. And their former terminal in State Street in Perth Amboy was destroyed by Superstorm Sandy, basically, and they had all different types of things. They ended up tearing it down, and they ended up going and making that into proposed warehouses. There was a sister facility down along Route 35 in Keysby, New Jersey, which is part of Woodbridge, where I grew up. That facility was also demolished, and I wrote the safety plan for the rebuild on that. It's just FYI. With that, so those were oil terminals that were demolished, and they put up warehouses there. But now, why do I mention this? Is that Hess used to have a terminal in Binghamton, and it was during a UPS strike. They used to take samples from the terminal over there and ship them to Woodbridge. And UPS had a strike one year. No, this is about 1999, roughly. And they used to ship the oil from Binghamton, New York, down to Woodbridge, New Jersey. Why do I mention this? Binghamton is like an energy hub, right? So before I started working with the companies that paint oil terminals and oil depots, I did not realize that every town, pretty much, or every area has its own oil depot. They're usually tucked away in the most surprising places. So, again, oil, there's pipelines all over. And statistically, they are the safest way to transport things. It's my understanding and my experience. As long as they're maintained, as long as you have the right people maintaining them and everything else. I used to work for the company that maintained a lot of those pipes, putting on coatings on there. So you'd be amazed the number of things there. So anyway, getting this pipeline approved is top priority for President Trump. Now the weird thing is, in New York, they've been trying, up until recently, they may still have it officially on the books. They want to move everything to electric to get away from natural gas. That was after a generation and a half of them screaming and yelling, getting off of dirty coal and going to clean natural gas, right? The powers that be and and many administrations there. Now we're going to get rid of natural gas and go to electric. How are you going to generate that? Solar panels. Okay, great. Wonderful. We all know about the negative part of solar panels here. We've gone into it at length and, right, they're not as clean as you would think. They do have a role. Let's see, what else here? This was the big one yesterday. Trump EPA proposes to free states from unnecessary Biden-era state implementation plan requirements. This, now, problem with this headline is it should have said implementation of Clean Air Act requirements. I knew what this was just by looking at the title, but I'm not a normal person. Normal average person wouldn't get that. Today, U.S. EPA proposed revisions of portions of Biden's EPA's January 2025 final rule, which requires states to keep certain state implementation, also called SIP, requirements tied to an area's prior ozone non-attainment classification under the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, as NAAQS, NAAQS. Even after that area had been reclassified, Trump's EPA proposed changes will realign the agency's approach to SIPs with the intent of the Clean Air Act, allowing states to focus their planning on further air quality improvements rather than unnecessary paperwork. It's sort of like the Ancient Safety Professional Episode 1, The Ritual of the Sign-In Sheet. Part of the cooperative federalism means listening to our regulatory partners about what is working and what is not. Unsurprising, the Biden-era rule is causing more confusion, more headaches, more pointless paperwork, but not cleaner air. Now, if I could, right, and it says all the good things, blah, 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 that this will probably do. Now, the Army Corps of Engineers, if you recall, a couple of months ago, had a had a big thing. They're making a big thing is we're into building things, not building paperwork. Right? So this is this should not be surprising here with that. Is that we're looking to reduce paperwork and pointless paperwork. Okay. Now here is a site that I'm a little bit familiar with, just slightly here. This is from Billings, Montana. The EPA, in partnership with the Montana Department of Environmental Quality, finalized a cleanup plan to address indoor air contamination at the Billings PCE Superfund site. Right? Here, today's decision sets a clear path forward to addressing contamination, protecting human health and the environment. Now, I'm going to point this out. I've done work in Montana on Superfund sites, and the how can I say this? There's a lot of stuff out there in the middle of nowhere. With that, you'd be surprised. One of the projects I was involved in was cleanup of a locomotive depot yard about 10 miles east of what was the name of the town? Livingston, Montana, in a place called Mission Y. Got to run into my first celebrity there that I ever met, who was Margot Kidder, who played Lois Lane in Superman in the 78 Superman movies with Christopher Reeve. Very nice woman, I'll say that much. Nothing bad to say about her with our conversation there. Now, So the Billings PCE Superfund site covers 1,100 acres, run through several neighborhoods east of downtown Billings. The site was contaminated in the past with PCE, perchloroethylene, that is, or ethene, and other chemicals from dry cleaners and other industrial sources. Chemicals from these buildings are in the soil and groundwater in parts of Billings. Chemical vapors can build up under building foundations and let small amounts of vapors into the indoor air. Mitigation systems prevent these vapors outside building, reduce the risk to the people inside. So let's see the profile. Now, I've been following up a lot of these jobs over the years here with this. And what's the background on here? Yeah. Right, so in 1993, right. This is what I was familiar with because when I was out there, the company I worked with was bidding on the job to do the cleanup out there because it was basically the same thing. And they were in the investigative end of this. So they were going to be doing some of the assessments. They bid on this job, and they were talking about it. So I'm just a little bit right. With that. And again, it's been apparent they're going into the final stages here, which means it's only been like a 33, 34 year rush to do the cleanup. That's how serious it was. It took them 34 years to get to this point. So anyway, that's what we got for tonight. And we're going to put on some pre-recorded stuff after this. Here, and don't want to go anymore because I'm going to foul it up here. So for Safety Wars and Safety FM, good night, and we're going to move into some pre-recorded programming after this.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.